presentation of the Lehman College Political Club and action. We are presenting a film on the Congo, specifically about the rape of women in the Congo and how rape is used as a weapon of war. And the UN has a huge military presence in the Congo as well. And there's a UN event right across the field from us. So we are hoping that you will watch the film and think of ways to take action after viewing the film. Thank you very much.
Veronique, and I'm here with Action. We're a new company that gets people together by watching films or music videos or reading a magazine article in order to help people figure out what their opinion is, and then we have done research on different groups so that you can pick and choose how you want to voice your opinion. Kind of help you connect the dots. That's why our logo has little dots in it. You know, it's one of the big things we need help doing. And today we're not watching the whole film because time is precious. So what Joseph and I have done, and I'll introduce Joseph in a second, is we've gone through and picked out a handful of scenes, about 20 minutes worth, and we'll stop and go to a next scene and explain it to you. I'm just going to present it from my own point of view as a woman. I've seen the whole film. So it's a little bit like what your friend would do if they were showing you photos in their cell phone or a photo album. They go, oh, let me tell you about this photo. So we're hoping that this kind of way of viewing a film is a little different and a little more personal. If you do have to leave early, I have a personal request that you take a quick second to fill out a survey on the table there as we're trying to get feedback from what people think. There's also a place for you to put your email address as we will be organizing and coming back in the fall to Lehman College. And now I'm going to introduce Joseph Mbangu, who is from the Congo, a citizen of the Congo. He was born there. He went to law school there, and he moved to the United States 8 years ago, where he got his law degree and master's degree at the International Trade Law School out in Arizona. He's been in New York since 2007, and he's been helping Lisa Jackson, the filmmaker of this film, with different advocacy items and translating the film. And this film, called The Greatest Silence, Rape in the Congo, is actually on HBO right now. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Joseph. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Veronique, and thank you all for coming to this event. My name is Joseph Mbangu, and basically, we're going to start with the movie. You're going to see the first part of the movie. The first thing to understanding the Congo is going back to history. And Lisa Jackson did a very good job in going back to 1885 with King Leopold II. And then she went on showing 1960 when the country pretty much became independent with almost very few intellectuals. So the years after 1960s, the country was in so much trouble, and that trouble continued until 1965 when Mobutu became the president. Kept the country under dictatorship for 30 years until 1997 when he was toppled. So without taking much of your time, I think we could go ahead and see the first part of.
So this first scene goes into a little bit of the history.
Of Western Europe, and is rich with gold, silver, diamonds, and oil. This wealth has also been a curse. In the 1880s, King Leopold II created the Belgian Congo to be his own personal slave colony, plundering ivory and rubber and killing half the native population.
Historical piece. The next piece of the Congo that we're going to share with you is the economic piece. And the Congo is one of the most mineral and resource-rich places on the planet with many different types of resources. But one of the particular and very profitable things that they have is an item called coltan, C-O-L-T-A-N. I had personally never even heard of it. But coltan, as it turns out, is this lightweight metal that conducts things very easily, and it's in every electronic anything everything you can imagine. So it's in your cell phone, it's in your laptop, it's in your video games, it's in our television, it's everywhere. So we have a piece of the Congo with us pretty much for the majority of our days. And the way that it is extracted and the way that the actual workers are compensated is not pretty. And the rebels on the ground use this as a way of, well, basically keeping money for themselves. So it's a little bit of a complex situation, but I wanted you to have this piece. And one of the things on the survey is asking you if you'd like to join us in approaching a company like Apple to really take on getting a lot of people involved in this issue. So, let's see. Reality and the film is the effect that it has on women. So the next scene is taken from a hospital called Panzi Hospital, which is located on the Rwandan border in a province called Kivu. And in the scenes we're going to show you, you're going to discover the physical condition that a lot of these women end up suffering from these basically very violent rapes. Most women are not only raped, they're gang raped, kidnapped for months and months and months, but eventually part of the rape involves foreign objects, guns, knives being put in their vaginas, and they end up needing surgery to repair the lining between their vagina and bladder. They basically cannot control their urine, and it's, as you can imagine, a pretty debilitating thing. So that's what happens in this hospital that specializes in repairing the condition called fistula. And the doctor has been doing this now for, I don't know, 10 years, a long time. So we get a sense of this isn't just happening overnight. I have to say something personal before I introduce that last scene. I mean, it's the kind of thing, I don't know if some of you even thought of it, you know, some of the things that we have access to here. I mean, not only these women have to go through surgery, but all the doctors are men. And I don't know about you, but I know that when I go see my gynecologist, I always have the choice between a man or a woman. If I go have a massage, you want a man or a woman? I mean, we have the luxury of choosing when and who touches us. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, maybe that's what some women will want to do, is help bring female doctors to the Congo. So that's the kind of thing that, you know, as you watch a film, just notice how different it is to some of the things we have access to. The next scene we're going to show you also just kind of blew my mind. It gets into the justice of it, you know, if a rape victim does actually file a complaint with the police. And you're going to meet this really cool woman called Honorine, who is basically a one-woman special victims unit. I mean, you know what that's like in New York City. I mean, I think it's a department of like 200 or 300 employees. One woman, one house. Oh, and by the way, 26,000 reported cases of rape in the year 2006. So I think this woman needs a lot of help, and it's just interesting to have her say and share some stories of how justice is served or not.
That was Major Honorine Munyole. The next scene that we're going to see is it pretty much comes from the title of the film itself, the silence. Most of the time, the victims keep quiet. They stay silent. And amazingly, in this case, Chantal, a young lady, 15 years old, had just been raped by a police officer. She decided to pretty much press charges against her attacker. And after that scene, we're going to see women who have been held as sex slaves by rebel militias. Just quite an emotional and amazing testimony.
Actually is a commander with the United Nations, a British general who explains his experience in the Congo and what he's seen. And the scene we've chosen is a personal reaction from him, reacting to some women that he met. And he goes into a little bit more of what is happening.
Here in Bunyakiri. Bunyakiri is a small village close by Bukavu, and we're going to see a support group at the church with women who are victims of rape, who pretty much going to give their testimonies. quite emotional.
Part of what is going to happen next is the filmmaker. That's the woman's voice you're about to hear, Lisa Jackson. We wouldn't be doing the film justice if I didn't take a second to tell you about her. She wanted to be here today, but she's actually in Colombia in South America screening the film. And the reason it's important to mention her is her story. She's a rape victim herself. So you're going to hear her refer to that. She went to this support group meeting and tells her story, and that was basically her idea, that if she would go to the Congo and share her own story, that perhaps women that normally wouldn't share their story would share it with a victim themselves. Her story, which she tells at the beginning of the movie, she was living in Washington, D.C. I think she was in her 20s, and she just was working late.